For God is for us, who could possibly be against us? No matter all the tragedies we see happen around this country, there's nothing that our God cannot overcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul. I'm one of the pastors here at the church. And what I wanted to do was kind of recap last week just a little bit, especially for those that maybe you weren't here. You know, last week I was looking at distractions in life, things that take us away from the purpose that God has for us. And I talked about what I thought was the biggest distraction that keeps you and I from discovering God's plan for your life and mine. You know what it is? It's your plans. See, you think if you figure out what you want to do with your life and you do it, come on, tell me this isn't true in our life, well, you're going to be happy. If I figure out what makes me happy, well, then that's going to make everything better, right? But that's not so true. You'll be unsatisfied. It's what we looked at last week. You'll be unsatisfied until you find that purpose that God has made you for. You can make all the plans in the world, and they won't ultimately satisfy you because you'll get bored. You get dissatisfied because you see you need to focus on Him. And there's one thing I do through this message. If you're new here, I have what's called Don't Miss This. And that's in case you doze off while I'm speaking or something. I go, hey, don't miss this. Because this is something that I want you to hang on to. If you forget everything else, remember the don't miss this. So here's my first one of the morning. When it comes down to your life, you only got two choices. I can choose to do my thing, or I can choose to do what God made me for. Those are the only two options that we have. You can't do them both. No, you can't. Because God's mission for your life is not something that you tack on to your life's goal list. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, what am I going to do today? Well, let's see. My goal is to make a lot of money. I'm going to retire. And plus, I'm going to serve God when I have time. You see, God's mission is not something you tack on to your great plans. I mean, I love what the Apostle Paul says in Acts 20:24. Now listen. But my life is worth nothing to me unless I get to retire. Oh, no, that doesn't say that. I read that wrong. No, he says, my life was worth nothing to me unless I use it for finishing the work assigned me by the Lord Jesus. The work of telling others the good news about the wonderful grace of God. Notice what the most important priority is. Tell other people. We are the ones, this is what we talked about last week, we are the ones who are supposed to pass it on, okay? Because you know why? Somebody told you. Somebody told you. And now we're supposed to pass it on to somebody else. To tell people this great news about who God is and how He can change our lives and find our true purpose in life. You know, this morning I have a couple I want to bring up, Mike and Tracy girls. You guys are here, come on up. Microphone's right over there. Some of you know Mike and Tracy. Mike's an elder here at the church. Tracy works with the children's ministry, but they're also heavily involved with Angel Tree Ministries in Calicinto Ranch. And I wanted them to come forward today. I wanted them to share a little bit of what it's like to do God's purpose because, come on over a little bit more into the light, both you guys. Don't worry, Mike, you won't scare anybody.
Blind everyone in the front row.
No, you're okay. So the question I want to start with, and then, of course, you can share what's going on, is doing God's plan is not necessarily always ours. And there's times that you really and giving up your days and nights, and you guys are giving up yours. And so just to start out and share what's going on here, and where do you find that purpose and being willing to, okay, I'll give up what I want to do.
Okay, to kind of set the scene for the photo, as you know, we take kids to Calicinto Ranch every year. These are kids whose parents are in prison. And so every year when we go to the ranch, they give us a theme. This year the theme, and every year we get a theme. This year it happened to be Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. Basically, fix your eyes on Jesus. Run the race. You start the race, you finish the race with Jesus. It's a good race. So we had just concluded teaching on my third topic is how we run this race together. And so we always share the gospel with these kids, and we have a number of opportunities to share the gospel with them, and this is the result of one of those.
Just after that third teaching, all the mentors with their 3 kids, the mentors usually have 3 kids in their group, we were asked to go out to the basketball court and huddle up with your kids and find out what they were thinking and what they were thinking about the message they heard. And so I had the opportunity to co-mentor these 3 little ones, and I got a chance to pray for the salvation with 2 of these kids this year. So that was, I'm usually running around doing other things, but today, this year, I got to share with these two kids. They had been with us 2 years in a row, two of these kids. So this was their second year with us. Also had another family. I've talked to both of these parents, too, since then, and the kids are running around telling everybody that they're Christians. Although one of them thought that she couldn't have birthday parties anymore. But, that's, we'll work on that a little bit. But they both are telling all their grandparents and their whole families that they're now Christians. And another family, we have a grandmother who had 6 children, adopted 6 children in her family, and we took 4 of them. And I called them to follow up, and I said, how are the kids doing after camp? And these kids were never been anywhere and kind of scared to go. She said, oh my gosh, I'm so blessed that they got to go because they have just opened up. And even the little one, the 7-year-old, is asking about God. They're all asking questions about God. So we've been planting seeds for a long time, and I know these seeds will blossom.
How long have you been doing this?
The camping, we've been doing it this was our 14th year taking kids.
And how many? No, it's awesome. It's awesome. And so overall, how many kids through your time? How many kids have you supplied Christmas with and taken to camp?
Well, camp alone is 300. Christmas, hundreds and hundreds more. But camp is, Christmas is our introduction to the families. And from those Christmas presents, we're able to connect with the families. And now, our task that we need to kind of expand is to stay in contact with these kids who can't wait to tell everyone that they now love Jesus. So
it's awesome.
That's where you get what we do is exhausting and beat up, and it's terrible, and it's the most fun you'll ever have. So you come talk to us if you want to have some more fun.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Anything else you want to say? No? Okay.
Thank you for your support for Angel Tree.
Oh, no. Let's go ahead and put that back over there. Thank you. No, hey. Listen. Look at everybody. I want you to listen to me here. You want to make your life count? The best investment of your time and money is getting people into heaven. You saw those photos. You saw those kids. You said, it's the best investment of your time, getting people into heaven. Because that's what's going to make a difference. Not 10 years from now or 50 years from now or 1,000 years from now. It's for eternity. It's forever. And there's nothing, I am 100% convinced there is nothing more significant than you can do with your life than help to get just one person into heaven. You do get one person in your life has meaning because you made an eternal difference. Those kids, one day, I'm telling you, Mike and Tracy are going to be walking down the Golden Street in heaven. One of these kids are going to come running up to them. Hopefully as adults. And just saying, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You see, there is no achievement. There is nothing that equals sitting there with those children and sharing with them, even though their parents are incarcerated and life doesn't look so good, that there is a God that loves them and cares for them. It's a message we all need, right? It's a message why we're all here. We talked about last week, it's easy to get so distracted from the purpose that God has placed and put into each and every one of our lives. And no matter what chapter of life you're in right now today, Jesus shares with us the importance of building our house, building our lives on the rock. So when the storms and distractions of life come, when they come along, we're going to be able to withstand them, okay? There's an expression. This is part of my prop here this morning. There's an expression I heard that said, boy, they just built themselves a house of cards. So I go, what exactly does that mean? So I looked up the definition. It says, house of cards is an expression that dates back to 1645. It means it's a structure or an argument built on a shaky foundation that will collapse if a necessary but overlooked or underappreciated element is removed. Jesus shares a story, and if you got your Bibles, go ahead and turn to Luke 12, because we're going to kind of hang out in Luke 12 today, okay? But Jesus shares a story about a house of cards, okay? It's actually about a Wall Street kind of guy. He's an entrepreneur who lost perspective, and he fell into the big lie. The big lie that every one of us in this room is vulnerable to, and I call it the big lie. It's the big lie that our self-worth and that our sense of security and your sense of satisfaction is wrapped up in your stuff. It's on every billboard, it's in every magazine, it's on every TV commercial you see. It's all about your stuff. The more stuff you have, the more satisfied you're going to be, the more joyful your life's going to be, and it goes on and on and on. And I think it's the big lie. Jesus is teaching a crowd of hundreds and hundreds of people when all of a sudden we're going to be in Luke 12:13. Are you ready for this? Someone in the crowd says to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." Imagine that. A family squabble over money. Aren't you glad that's never happened to you? Right? There's never any fights in your home, is there, or in your marriage over money, right? You know the old saying, don't you? Where there's a will, there's a relative. And that's what am I right? And that's what our story that Jesus is sharing is about today. This guy comes up and he asks Jesus this question. He goes, "Tell my brother to give me a share of the inheritance." He doesn't ask Jesus to judge on the merits of the case. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say, "Would you look at this and see if I deserve anything, Jesus?" No. This is what he says in verse 14. "Man, who appointed me a judge or arbitrator over you?" Jesus goes, who did this? And then in the next verse, Jesus issues a very strong warning to all the hundreds and hundreds of people that are there listening. He says, "Beware and be on guard against every form of greed. For not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions." Powerful, right? Now, I want you to let that last phrase, just let it soak in for a minute. A man's life doesn't consist in the abundance of his possessions. See, Jesus is really basically saying, be careful that it's not one of the cards in the house that you're building. Be real careful. Be real careful. Jesus doesn't say that possessions are bad. He says, but you're not going to find life in them. Money is amoral. It's not good and it's not bad. Jesus says to watch out and be on guard for all kinds of greed. Look, here's another, don't miss this. Greed is not defined by what something costs. Greed is defined by what something costs you. And then Jesus goes on, and he starts to tell another parable. We're in verse 16 now. He goes, "The land of a rich man was very productive. And he began reasoning to himself, saying, 'What shall I do? I've got no place to store my crops.' So here's this guy who's already affluent. Doesn't show anywhere in that he's a bad guy. He's gained his wealth, it seems honorably. It seems like he's worked really hard. So far, so good, right? I think if Jesus was telling a story today, all right, I'm taking a little latitude here, but I think if Jesus was before us today and was telling the same parable, I think he would kind of put it this way. I think he would say, this Wall Street guy, he pulls his Bentley into his 6-car garage late on a Friday afternoon in his home in Indian Wells. He walks into the house, takes off his suit jacket, gives his wife a kiss. He goes and sits in his home office, turns on his PC, and what he sees astounds him. His company's stocks have soared through the roof. And he thinks, how far? He just thinks back how far he has come since the early days when he had to max out his credit cards and take a loan against his house to start this business that is now thriving in his garage at the time. He just had a staggering return in the stock market, and he's faced with a dilemma. What's he going to do with all that's coming in, right? Well, Luke 18, he says, this is what I'll do. I'm going to tear down my barns, and I'm going to build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and all my goods, right? He doesn't plan to do anything evil. So he's not planning to do anything evil. Maybe he walks back out to his car in the garage. He opens up the trunk. He's got some blueprints in there. He takes them back in his office. He spreads them out. Can you see it? Just beautiful mahogany desk, and rolls them out. And he looks at the plans that are going to probably quadruple his infrastructure. Yeah, granted, it's going to mean a few more years of 12 to 16-hour days, but he's one of those guys, he's done the cost-benefit analysis, okay? He's gone over all the projections with his senior staff, and he believes he's covered every contingency. So when the payday comes, he says, I will say to my soul, soul, you have many goods laid up for many years to come. Take your ease. Eat, drink, and be merry. He's basically saying, hey, finally, I have what we all long for. I'm going to go down as a legend in the industry. I've got security for me and my family, and I'll live the rest of my life with the satisfaction that I made it. I'll vacation at the best resorts. I'm going to eat at the finest restaurants. I'll collect the world's finest wines, and that will be my life. He no more finishes that thought. He has a sensation in his chest. It's kind of a stretching kind of pain. He thinks that maybe it's indigestion. Quickly, the pain shoots to his shoulder, into his arm, into his neck. He starts to stand up, but he can't stand. Actually, he can't even speak. And then his head hits the desk. 45 minutes go by, and his wife calls. She's putting on her coat. He doesn't answer. They always head to their favorite table at their favorite Italian restaurant in El Paseo on Friday night. It's their date night. She calls 3 times. No answer. She walks into the office, and she sees his head down on the desk. And she thinks he's sound asleep. And she thinks to herself, when is he ever going to slow down? She goes over a little bit, and she realizes there's no response. Panic sets in. Even though his body is still warm, he's gone. And just like that, everything changes. The autopsy says it was a massive heart attack. See, the irony is that a guy who developed a reputation throughout the business and financial community for covering every possible scenario had not planned for the one predictable event in his life. And it's not as if God has kept the future a secret. One glance at a cemetery, and we all know everybody dies. And while the business and the financial community mourn his loss and celebrate his life, look how God utilizes him. You fool. This very night your soul is required of you, and now who will own what you have prepared? So let me ask you, why did God call him a fool? Was it his affluence? It can't be. Listen, many godly people in Scripture were affluent. Solomon, David, Barnabas, Nicodemus. God used all those people in great ways. So, was it what he proposed to do with his wealth? Well, he was going to preserve it and grow it. You know, he's going to tear down his barns. He's going to build bigger ones. And it just made sense. If you get a big return, right, it's good management to preserve it and grow it. So what's the fatal flaw here? Why would God say such a thing? Why did God say, you're such a fool? I think it's what Jesus said in conclusion. He says, so is the man who stores up treasure for himself. It's not rich towards God. Jesus is not criticizing his affluence. He's criticizing his arrogance. It wasn't wrong to plan for the future. The problem was his plans had nothing to do with God. It was all about him. He fell for the big lie that plagues human beings throughout history. It's all about our stuff. This guy was trying to meet 3 needs that everyone in this room has. He was trying to meet the need of self-worth. He's trying to meet the need of security, right? And the need for satisfaction. He was trying to do it with money. His life was a house of cards. Look at deep within all of us a desire to feel like we matter, right? That we're valuable and that we're respected. And that's what the media, can I tell you, keeps on telling us, all right? Hey, you want to be somebody? You want to be somebody? Well, you got to live in that certain housing development. Yeah. You know, you better be driving that car with that certain insignia on the front. You want to be somebody. You better dine at the right places in town and belong to the right clubs. You better vacation in the right places, too. Friends, this is what drives the I got to keep up with the Joneses syndrome, right? So a successful Wall Street guy says this. This is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and I will store up all my grains and my goods. Do you hear the narcissism in his comments? Does that sound a little me-centric to anybody here? In 2 verses, he refers to himself 6 times. Money is a way that we keep score of our accomplishments, right? But it's a very uncertain self-worth because eventually you run into people who are just doing better than we are, okay? And then we start to reevaluate our worth, how well we have done. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions. How do you find your self-worth? Let me ask you. How do you find your self-worth? Even more important than that, how valuable do you think you really are? I'm going to tell you what it is, and you see. You are worth the life and the blood and the death and the resurrection of Jesus, the Son of God. That's what you are worth. It's important to understand, and I say this all the time, it's not who you are, it's whose you are. People I meet over and over, where do you, oh, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a real estate agent. Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I lead a CEO of blah, blah, blah. Or, no, that's not who you are. That's what you do. But who are you? More importantly, again, whose are you? If we could just get this straight, friends, in our hearts, many of our lives wouldn't be built like a house of cards. Look at what Jesus says in Mark 3:24. He goes, look, if a kingdom's divided against itself, that kingdom can't stand. If a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. See, if you got one leg in the kingdom of heaven and you got another leg in the kingdom of earth, you're unstable. You're not steady. You're leaning one way or you're leaning the other. Some of the time you're over here and some of the time you're over here. He goes, you're unsteady. You're divided. Where are you going to be? See, don't miss this, friends. More doesn't make you worth more. Let me say it again. More doesn't make you worth any more. Okay? You don't get any more valuable than to being the son or daughter of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Look at Jesus said in Mark 3, but no one, this is what he says, but no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his property unless he first binds that strong man up, and then he can plunder the house. In other words, you can't go in a house and break in the house if the guy's sitting there waiting up for you to show up. You got to tie him up first. Friends, many have tied up the lies of the world. They've been tied up by the lies of the world. And they've been plundered from this life that God has wanted for them. God keeps trying to pull them away. Don't build a house of cards. They haven't been able to tie up the strong man in their life. Many lives are houses of cards. I'm going to tell you, they're just wavering. They're just wavering. One wrong card, you know how this all works. One wrong card pulled out, and what happens? The whole thing comes down. See, we all have this need for security. And there are those here who are letting it, and they're betting everything on this house of cards that the world tells them is going to give you security and stability. There's a certain cartoon I came across. It's a picture of a woman bringing flowers to the cemetery. And she comes to her husband's tombstone, which reads, R.J. Hardwell, born 1935. Gave up smoking, 1964. Gave up alcohol, 1975. Gave up red meat, 1983. Gave up fried food, 1990. Started walking regularly, 1992. He died anyways, 1998. Friends, that's the truth for all of us. No matter how much we accumulate, we're all gonna die. And it's interesting to me that this Wall Street kind of guy who accumulated and accumulated and accumulated, there's not a suggestion anywhere from Jesus' teaching anywhere in the story that he ever gave anything away. I don't know if you noticed that in the story. There's nowhere in it. Okay? You, you see, our bling, our stuff, when it's hoarded, it doesn't benefit anybody. If you want to put your money in a really secure place, this is what Jesus said. Some of you are not going to like this, okay? But this is what Jesus said. Sell your possessions. What? Give to charity. Make yourself money belts which don't wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near or no moth destroys. Told you some of you wouldn't like it. Jesus is saying, don't try. I mean, this is so important. This is what he's trying to get across to us. Don't try to find security in your stuff because it's vulnerable. Thieves can come in and they can steal your stuff. Moths can eat some of it. It's all going to be dust one day. You know, I'll share a personal story real quick. My wife and I had our home broken into, I guess it's been over 10 years now. I remember coming home. We just put a safe in the house, bolted it to the floor, had some stuff in there that was really important. You know, everything from your Social Security and all the and treasures and stuff, family stuff. I remember pulling into my garage, and I noticed my cabinet doors are open in my garage. Well, that's odd. And I walk in my house, and next thing I see everything's flipped over and upside down. And I walk into the bedroom, and the drawers are all emptied out. And I run down the hall where I had my safe, and it was someone took a crowbar or something and broke the safe, the whole safe. They took the whole thing, bolt, everything. And with the story of this is, friends, what happened to myself and my wife 10 years ago, and why this scripture verse is so powerful to us, everything of value was taken from us. We don't have anything of value anymore. Everything that was special, like my father gave me or my mom or her dad, they took it all. The only thing they left was my dad's flag from his coffin. For some reason, they left that. Everything else was gone. And at the time, it was horrific. But you know, we've got nothing to lose now. If I went home today and someone broke in my house, what are they going to take? TV? Computer? Let's go down to Costco, you buy another one. But things of value, they took it all away. You would think it'd be safe, in a safe, bolted to a floor when you're gone from your house for 1 hour. You would think so. You see, the house that we think we have to have, you know, that house maybe you're dreaming of right now, I just got to have that house. Kind of grab a hold of this and understand this. It's going to be dust one day. That business that you're spending a lifetime building, it's going to be dust one day. That portfolio that you're sweating over and agonizing over, losing sleep, it's going to be dust one day. Friends, when you give to the causes that are close to the heart of God, listen, you're providing something in heaven that will never wear out. Let me tell you, that's security. Look, when you give of your time and your energy and your talents and your finances, I'm going to read it again. When you give to the causes that are close to the heart of God, you are providing something in heaven that's never, never going to wear out. No one's ever going to steal it from you. Friends, whatever you're dreaming of in this life, everything you're working so hard towards right now, can I tell you, it can change just like that. Just like the people in Texas, El Paso, everything can change just like that. If the CEO, he's out for a jog and he suddenly feels pain in his chest, and just like that, it all changes. Teenagers are driving in a car, someone misses the stoplight, just like that, everything changes. Doctor says to you, lying on the hospital bed, well, it's stage 4. Nothing we can do. And just like that, everything changes. You see, friends, the world has dealt us a deck of cards. It's telling you, hey, if you go after this, and you go after that, and you go after this and that, you're going to be really happy. So just start building your house that way. Just start building your home. Trust us. It's going to be great for you. You're going to find all the joy and happiness wrapped up. Can I tell you, this house of cards, it's a lie. It's that big lie. I'm telling you that your self-worth and your satisfaction, okay, and your security is wrapped up in this. I'm telling you, it's vital you hear me today. It's not true. It's not true. It's wrapped up in the love that you give to someone else. It's wrapped up being the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. It's reaching out and caring for others. That's what's going to last forever. Stuff here can get stolen. People can snuff out a life just like that. That's not the key. The key, my friends, is building our house on the rock. Look at marriages are falling apart faster than ever. Stress-related illnesses, I just got done reading, are at the highest level they ever were at. Our children are drifting away. A house divided, like Jesus said, you can't stand. You can't stand. You got to choose one side, you got to choose the other. Look at, if we don't address this, all we're doing is passing on the house of cards. It's like, here you go, son. Here you go, daughter. Here's the house of cards I built. Now it's yours. Right? I don't know about you. I don't want to be standing before God one day and hear him say to me, you fool. Paul, you fool. What have you prepared for yourself? Paul, you based your whole life on chasing the wind. Everything you based your life on is now dust. Jesus tells us, build your house. Build your lives, build your families, build your ministries, his kingdom, the church. He says, build it on the rock so that when the winds come and the waves come up against it, you're going to be sturdy and solid. You'll make it through. You can't have one foot in each kingdom. You just can't do it. So friends, let me close with this. And then we're going to do communion together for those that want to partake. But let me close. It's an appeal from the Apostle Paul. And if you have your Bibles, you'll want to open to Ephesians 4. And I'm going to read through you 1 through 6. And I'm reading it's like, I'm going to make the appeal like it's the Apostle Paul standing here. It goes, therefore I, a prisoner of the Lord, I implore you, walk in the manner worthy of the calling of which you've been called, with all humility and gentleness and patience, showing tolerance for one another in love, being diligent to preserve the unity of spirit and the bond of peace. There's one body, there's one Spirit, just as also you were called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. Friends, let that just soak in your heart. Let us build our house in unity. Let's build this home that God is calling us to, all right, in worthiness and in strength. Let's really look and really start to look around as you see every ad and commercial and stuff that's going on and where you're being pulled and go, what am I building? Am I building a house of cards? Because all you need is one to be pulled out. And everything's going to fall apart on me. So I want to encourage you, where are you at? You know, this morning is a special morning as we get to close here with communion. Now, for those of you that, you have, could I have our team, Thomas and that, and those are going to hand out the elements, go on over to the tables over there. For those of you that got plans, all right, this is going to, communion's 10 minutes. But for those of you that have plans and that you need to leave, please go right. I mean, don't feel funny because you're getting up in front of everybody and leaving, okay? If you need to go somewhere, just go ahead and go. Or if you're new to this whole thing, you don't even understand what communion's about, let me just encourage you. I want to encourage you for 10 minutes. Just sit there. The elements come by, just pass them by. But learn to hear what this symbolizes this morning. It's everything we're talking about. When Jesus came to give his life, he goes, this is what you're building your life. He goes, let me show you how to build your life. That's why he came. That's why God became incarnate, okay? This is why he came to show us, look, let's stop building this. Let's build something of tremendous importance. So those of you that need to leave, please go ahead. And please, go ahead and get up and go. And you guys, if you just want to strum a little bit, I'm going to have you guys start to hand out the elements, if you would.